President Obama stuck on unilateral, his latest executive overreach, this time on relations with Cuba, presenting a difficult problem for Democrats and Republicans. Joining us now, the A-Team, Amy Holmes. She is host For the Blaze TV and a former speechwriter for Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist. And Leslie Sanchez, former advisor to President George W. Bush and CEO of the Impacto Group. Good to have you both here. The president goes unilateral. And he chooses the day in which Congress and the Senate have left town. Any correlation, do you think?
I think there might be. Are you connecting dots, Mr. Dobbs?
Well, one or two of them.
Well, once again, the president does not build consensus around this decision. It's an executive action. And, you know, properly, some aspects of foreign policy, of course, are conducted by the executive branch. But as you're seeing, the opposition to this decision is across party lines. You have Senator Menendez from New Jersey, who is very upset with this. And I think the question that a lot of lawmakers, Americans, and Cubans are asking, what do we get out of this? What was the big benefit to the United States?
And it looks like the answer, as it so often is when this president and his administration go somewhere to negotiate, it turns out not much, Leslie.
We have very poor negotiation skills if that's the measure by which we look at. You know, recognizing the Cuban dictatorship does nothing but hurt U.S. interest moving forward, and it does not help democratize or open and create a free Cuba. You still have limitations, no freedom of the press, no freedom to assemble, no freedom of speech, no freedoms of political parties and to hold elections. So the Cuban people, as we've heard many of our colleagues say, wake up tomorrow and realize really what did happen other than the Castro brothers once again got what they wanted.
And the poll, NBC, Wall Street Journal poll, showing over 70% of Americans now say the new president that succeeds Mr. Obama, they want to take an entirely different approach because they believe this country is going absolutely the wrong direction. There couldn't be a much stronger repudiation, do you think, of what this president is doing?
Well, we saw a very strong repudiation during this midterm election. We now have House Democrats with the smallest minority they've ever had in 80 years. So again, President Obama making a decision with very little political capital when it comes to the American public and no consensus, or not attempting to build consensus on Capitol Hill. And I would add this other thing. I find it ironic that the president thinks that making this gesture is somehow going to lead to trickle-down democracy in Cuba. It doesn't work that way. We have extensive economic ties with China. China is still a communist country.
This president, amongst the other issues, obviously, racial relations in this country, which are at a 20-year low, an almost 20-year low. You have to go back to 1995. And this president is continuing to wage what I call a war of ignorance against the American people, charging them with being racist, when he is probably the greatest living example of a beneficiary of what America is and what we've become. It is breathtaking, yet we don't hear much reaction from either the national liberal media or from the Republican Party.
Well, that would be, you know, holding everyone accountable, Lou, and I think you're exactly right about that. I mean, we talked about a post-racial country after the president's victory in 2008, and we've seen that tensions continue to exist, that it requires leadership, that it requires collaboration, and it requires more than political theater. It takes strong governance, and I feel like many times the administration is like trying to clean up a situation that maybe it shouldn't have inserted itself into. Yeah. Or maybe it should look at legislative solutions and policies with, you know, among Republicans, Democrats, Independents that can really heal this nation. But to do things unilaterally, again, sets the wrong precedents, and it looks more political than substantive.
Yeah, and only because it certainly is. Going to Amy's point, I mean, this president refuses to build consensus, whether it's on Capitol Hill or across the nation. This is a man who had the opportunity to be, as he said, the president of the United States, not the red states, not the blue states, right. The United States. He had the opportunity to create, if anyone did, a post-racial society. And this, instead, he has become the leading, if you will, provocateur, and I think utterly disgusting, appalling president in terms of race that we have seen in our lifetime.
Well, Lou, Leslie, we were all together that election night in 2008, and we saw the massive support for the president and also the great hope that he would, as he campaigned, be a healer, that he would be someone to try to help us transcend these different categories. But instead, he's played to them, particularly in terms of partisanship. I don't think we've ever seen a president this partisan. And after this midterm election, basically he had the same attitude after a huge thumping just a couple months ago as he did after 2008, which is, I won. And we, of course, saw the immigration decision, the executive action there.
Yeah, and he looks for all the world to me like a man retaliating because he has been repudiated by the voters. He's been repudiated by those in poll after poll. Leslie, you were in charge of outreach to minorities for President George W. Bush. Do you see signs that the Republican Party is going to try to seize this opportunity and profoundly change the direction, the makeup, the character of the party? Focus, in addition to diversity, but also on working men and women, the middle class, those who aspire to it.
Well, I think, Lou, you hit the nail on the head with that. It isn't just minority voters. It's voters who are really looking for economic opportunity, believe in personal responsibility, believe in securing and defending our freedoms. And that, regardless of race, ethnicity, that can bring a lot of people together. That's the foundation of the Republican Party. So there's tremendous opportunity. I think the positives are you're seeing many more Hispanic candidates who are running statewide and winning across this country who happen to be Republican and, you know, blue, purple states. That's an important thing because they're not in gerrymandered majority districts. I think, but overall, the tone will be set by these presidential candidates and the leadership of this party to be inclusive,
that's not entirely,
to not have the white hot rhetoric, you know, of immigration.
That's not entirely encouraging.
Yeah, that's not entirely calming, Leslie. You get the last word.
Well, we need to be aspirational here. Yeah.
One can hope so. Yeah. One can hope that the Republican Party does seize this opportunity for a new direction. We know the country feels that we're going in the wrong direction and have given the Republicans, again, an opportunity to try to move forward.
Amy, thank you very much.
Thank
Leslie,
you.
thank you both. Old times here.
Thank you.
Good to see you both.